Your life at every level of being smart. Hashtag level 1 curiosity. This is you. You are not smart yet. Not in the way people mean when they say it later. Not in the test score way. Not in the gifted kid way. Not in the way adults use the word when they are deciding which child deserves higher expectations. Right now, you are just curious. You ask why the sky is blue, why people die, why money exists, why your parents say they are fine when they clearly are not, why some kids get praised for being loud and others get punished for the same thing. At first, intelligence is not about answers. It is about noticing that the world has questions hiding inside it. Toys, pens, remote controls, stories people tell you. Rules that do not make sense. Sometimes adults like this. Sometimes they get tired of it. Because curiosity is cute when it is small. It becomes annoying when it starts challenging the system. So you learn early that being smart has a social cost. People like questions until the questions make them uncomfortable. Hashtag level 2, the fast learner. Now school enters the story. And suddenly intelligence has a scoreboard. Worksheets, quizzes, report cards, reading groups, math tests, spelling bees, parent-teacher meetings. You learn things quickly, not everything, but enough that people notice. You finish before the other kids. You understand instructions the first time. You get praised for answers you barely had to work for. Adults start using a word around you, smart. At first, it feels good. Then it becomes a cage. Because once people call you smart, they stop praising effort and start expecting performance. An easy 95 becomes normal. An 82 becomes a conversation. A mistake becomes evidence that something is wrong. You are not just learning anymore. You are defending a reputation. And the dangerous part is, you start believing that being smart means things should come easily. So when something finally gets hard, you do not think, I need to practice. You think, maybe I am not smart after all. Level 3, the gifted kid. This is where the label becomes part of your identity. The one who understands. The one who gets good grades. The one teachers trust. The one relatives brag about. The one other students ask for help 5 minutes before the assignment is due. You like it. Of course you do. Being smart gives you status before you understand what status is. But it also separates you. You become afraid of looking confused. You become careful about what you try. You avoid things where you might be average. You start choosing the version of life where you can keep winning. That is the gifted kid trap. You are not addicted to learning. You are addicted to being seen as smart. There is a difference. Learning requires embarrassment. Being smart requires a performance. So you perform. You raise your hand when you are sure. You stay quiet when you are not. You act bored when you are actually lost. You make jokes when you feel insecure. You would rather look lazy than look stupid. That sentence will cost you years. Hashtag level 4, the reality check. Eventually, the world stops being easy. Maybe it happens in high school, maybe university, maybe the first real job, maybe the first time you meet people who are smarter than you and also work harder. For the first time, your natural ability is not enough. You read the page and do not understand it. You watch a lecture and feel nothing click. You study for hours and still get cooked on the exam. Someone else solves the problem in 2 minutes, while you are still trying to understand what the question is asking. This is humiliating. Not because failing is new, because now you have to face the truth. You were never invincible. You were just ahead. And being ahead felt like being special until the race got longer. This level breaks a lot of smart people. Not because they lack intelligence, because they lack the emotional skill of being bad at something. They never trained that muscle. So the first serious challenge feels like an identity crisis. Not, I failed this test. I am not who I thought I was. Level 5, the overthinker. Now your brain becomes too loud. You can analyze everything. Every conversation. Every decision. Every mistake. Every possible future. every hidden meaning in a text message that probably just meant what it said. Being smart starts to feel less like a gift and more like having 47 tabs open in your mind at all times. You see patterns. Some are real, some are not. You understand consequences before other people do. You can predict how things might go wrong. You can see the flaw in the plan, the weakness in the argument, the risk nobody is mentioning. This makes you useful. It also makes you annoying. Because people do not always want the most accurate answer. Sometimes they want confidence, comfort, momentum. A simple yes. And your brain does not give simple yeses anymore. It gives conditions, edge cases, probabilities, counter-arguments. You start confusing intelligence with control. If you can just think hard enough, maybe you can avoid failure, avoid embarrassment, avoid pain, avoid wasting time, avoid becoming the kind of person who gets blindsided by life. But thinking is not living. And eventually, you realize you have been using your brain to stand outside your own life, analyzing it instead of entering it. At some point, being smart makes you dangerous. Not to the world, to yourself. You start noticing how often people are wrong, how easily they believe things, how confidently they repeat bad arguments, how little they question their own assumptions. And because you notice this, you start feeling above it, above them. You become the person who corrects everything. The person who wins arguments but loses warmth. The person who thinks being right is the same thing as being valuable. You mistake intelligence for superiority. This is the ugliest level, because it feels justified from the inside. You are not always wrong. That is the problem. Sometimes you really do see something others missed. Sometimes your logic is better. Sometimes people are being irrational. But being right does not automatically make you wise. A smart person can still be insecure. A smart person can still be cruel. A smart person can still use intelligence as armor, because deep down, they are terrified that without it, they are ordinary. And ordinary feels like death, when your whole identity was built on being exceptional. Level 7, the specialist. Eventually, you stop trying to be smart at everything. You pick a lane. Coding, math, medicine, business, law, research, writing, finance, engineering, something deep enough to humble you forever. This is where real intelligence starts, because now you are surrounded by people who know more than you. The beginner praise is gone. Nobody cares that you were advanced in school. Nobody cares that you used to finish tests early. The field does not care about your childhood reputation. It only cares whether you can do the work. So you work. You learn the boring fundamentals. You repeat things. You build. You fail. You debug. You read. You ask questions that make you feel stupid. You realize expertise is not a personality trait. It is accumulated contact with reality. Slowly, your intelligence becomes quieter. Less about proving, more about seeing. You start respecting people who are good at things you do not understand. You realize every serious field is harder from the inside than it looks from the outside. Humility finally arrives, not as a moral achievement, as a side effect of knowing enough to see how much you do not know. Level 8, the useful mind. This is when being smart becomes less about you. You stop asking, do people think I am intelligent? You start asking, can I solve the problem? That shift changes everything. You become clearer, more practical, less fragile. You do not need to dominate every room. You do not need to correct every sentence. You do not need people to know how much you know. You care about results. Can you explain the idea simply? Can you build the thing? Can you help someone understand? Can you make a decision under uncertainty? Can you admit when the data changed? Can you update your beliefs without acting like your ego got stabbed? This is mature intelligence. Not knowing more facts. Being able to interact with reality without constantly protecting your self-image. You listen better now. because you finally understand that every person knows something you do not. The mechanic knows things. The nurse knows things. The immigrant parent knows things. The quiet student in the back knows things.